Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's June 18th. Have you heard of the little free library that some thoughtful people put out by their sidewalks? Well, a few weeks ago, I saw a post by Hilton Jolliffe about his little free Herbary. That's right. The idea takes obvious inspiration from the Little Free Library movement, and it aims to help us share and connect with neighbors and others who might need herbs for cooking, medicinal remedies, fragrances, etc. Anyway, I loved Hilton's idea. I think it's just as cute as all get out. And he also has a Facebook group that you can go to find out more information. Just head on over to Facebook, and the next time you're there, look for Little Free Herbary and tell Hilton you heard about it on the Daily Gardener podcast. Here's today's brevities. It was on this day in 1812 that the botanist Karl Theodor Hartweg was born. He'd started out in Paris, working for the botanical garden there, and then ended up at Chiswick Gardens in London. He was eager to travel and go on expeditions, and so he was sent to the Americas for the first time in 1836. He was supposed to be there for a 3-year project, but you know how plans go astray. He ended up being there 7 years. During Hartweg's time, native plants of Mexico, like dahlias and cacti, were all the rage. Hartweg's particular specialty was orchids. According to Merrill Reinke, the author of A History of the Orchid, Hartweg collected the most variable and comprehensive collection of New World orchids made by a single individual in the first half of the 19th century. During his time in the Americas, Veracruz in Mexico had become something of a mecca for plant explorers. Hartweg once commented, "All the way from London, just to look after weeds." And it's the anniversary of the death of Edgar Shannon Anderson, an American botanist whose 1949 book, Introgressive Hybridization, was a major step forward in botanical genetics. While he was at Harvard, he went on to work at the Bussey Institute, a biological arm of the university. It was there that he met Dorothy Moore, a fellow botanist. Dorothy was always by his side, going on botanical hikes through the countryside. They were married in 1923. Anderson became the director of the Missouri Botanical Garden, but after 3 years of administrative work, he went back to his passions of teaching and research. In 1952, Anderson published Plants, Man, and Life. In the book, Anderson shared his methods of research and his perspective on life, and it is a favorite among botanists. It contains not only scientific knowledge, but also folklore, some of Anderson's insights on early herbalists, and a little bit of philosophy. There's a charming account of Leonard Fuchs, a German physician and botanist. When Anderson wrote about him, he said he was a big, broad-shouldered Henry VIII sort of man with handsome clothes and a general air of getting things done. And it's the 1-year anniversary of the death of the beloved botanist and professor Mohan Rom. Professor Mohan Rom left a tremendous legacy with the faculty and students of the botany department at Delhi University. He had published over 240 research papers. He had guided 32 PhD students, and his research included studies in floral biology, plant physiology, insectivorous plants, and the riverweed family. In one of his autobiographies, Mohan Rom said, "I wish I could be like a tree, deep-rooted and firmly fixed, bearing a lofty bowl and a broad canopy, continuously absorbing, synthesizing, and renewing, bearing fragrant flowers and delicious fruits, unmindful of stresses and insults, resilient to changes and perpetually giving and not coveting. To this I must add tenacity based on the remarkable example of a ginkgo tree, almost at the epicenter of the 1945 Hiroshima nuclear explosion. It sprouted from the root after its trunk had been completely demolished, along with everything around it. This month, the English gardening expert Karl Klein is hosting a brand new television program called Great British Gardens. Karl's program has 4 parts, and it explores 4 of the country's most distinctive gardens. Today's episode features Gravetie Manor at 9 p.m. The gardens at Gravetie were created by William Robinson, one of England's most distinguished gardeners. For today's Unearthed Words, here are some thoughts on June from Vita Sackville West. It always seemed to me that the herbaceous peony is the very epitome of June. Larger than any rose, it has something of the cabbage rose's voluminous quality, and when it finally drops from the vase, it sheds its petticoats with a bump on the table, all in an intact heap, much as a rose will suddenly fall, making us look up from our book or conversation to notice for one moment the death of what had still appeared to be a living beauty. Today's book recommendation is The Names of Plants by David Gledhill. It's a fantastic reference for gardeners. The first section gives some botanical history, while the second section offers a glossary of generic and specific plant names, along with detailed explanations of botanical nomenclature. Today's garden chore is to plant some Doyle's thornless blackberry. Doyle's thornless produces 10 to 20 gallons of berries per plant per year. That's 10 times a normal blackberry bush. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 1968 that the Rolling Stones had a #1 single called Jumpin' Jack Flash. Keith Richards said that he and Mick Jagger had wrote the song after staying at Richards' house. They were awakened early one morning by Richards' gardener. Jagger asked, "What's that noise?" And Richards answered, "That's Jumpin' Jack." Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.